$2,700 for their archway bookcase. I built ours complete with their Hinge Kit for $427.
House on the Mend.
Hi, I'm Mike with House on the Mend, and you are in our basement hallway. Right down from the stairs, round the corner, coming down this hallway, you see this nice little bookcase decorated with some books and things, but inside is my daughter Aspen's bedroom. Let's take a look at this fully customizable door and what I did with the back. Now, typically when you make a secret door like this, it's going into, say, your gun room or some sort of storage closet. In our case, it was going to be in the family room area of Aspen's bedroom. So I decided to really decorate the back of it and make it look just like these barn doors you see over here, and I think it's a pretty good match. So we are looking at 3/4 inch thick plywood for the back to make the whole cabinet very stable. And then I used wood trim to make this barn door and a nice black handle for opening it. I even took the time to take wood banding and iron on this edge banding so that I could stain it to the same color. In this video, I'm going to show you how I utilized Murphy's Doors available Hinge Kit and then built my own custom door for so much less money. Now let's go over everything that comes in the box, because when you first unpackage it, if you're anything like me, it is very daunting to look at all this and go, what am I seeing here? So let's start with these two. They're the easiest. This is your base plate that's going to go into your subfloor, or in our case, through our laminate flooring into the concrete of our basement. This is the hinge on the bottom that is going to attach to the base or the cabinet that we're actually going to build. Next, we have the upper hinge, which is this and this one. This one is going to go into your door opening. This one is going to attach to the top of your cabinet that we are going to build, your bookcase. Those two are held together by this hinge pin. It has a button that you push in that releases these two balls so that you can slide right through both, like that, and like that. Now, this will come into play later, but look at how much play you are going to have. Now, this and this are your friction pin. So this would be attached to your cabinet or your bookcase, and this attaches to the floor as it comes across here. This guy's on a very hard spring, like that. It comes through and clicks into place, holding it. Now, in our case, I didn't end up using this. I didn't want to put any more drill holes into our concrete, especially when you consider how small these holes are. I just didn't want to do that. Instead, I used magnets, but they include that, and it's pretty cool. And this guy is your hinge pin removal tool. Also, it is very helpful for when you're installing the pin. So inside here, there's a couple notches that line up really well with this lip right here. So you come in, you turn it like that, that pushes the pin and allows you to pull it out. This one here has the slightest amount of like wear or rust on it. It's usually a lot easier on our other one. But if you preload it like this, as you're coming up, you put the bookcase into place and with it preloaded, you can get into what is sometimes a relatively tight spot and push this pin through. Then once it's in there, with that friction, you can twist this and it comes off. So pretty helpful. The last thing we have is a nice selection of screws. You have some really long screws here that I used for the top plate to go into the top of my door opening, and then a bunch of other screws if you are putting stuff into wood that I used for this piece here. The rest of it I used concrete anchor bolts for, but there you go. That's the explanation of what each of these strange looking parts are. Now, Murphy Door is only too happy to sell you their hardware kit, but as you can see in the first introduction of their instructions once you get the kit, they really want to steer you towards their very expensive bookcase kit. Check this out. We provide hinge templates based on the doors that we build. If you choose to design and build your own hidden door, Murphy Door cannot assist you with the customization process. Murphy Door makes no claim to the ease of designing and building your bookcase. All right, nonetheless, we have this really well designed and very sturdy kit, so let's make the best of it with our customization process. Now, in these instructions, the majority of them is the exact step-by-step of how to assemble their very expensive boxes. But once you go past that, you get into the process of installing your hinges. Now, the same kit can do right hinge, left hinge, in-swing, outswing. Now, as you saw in our introduction, we are a left hinge and an in-swing. So we are going to be using all of the information for, left hinge. Now, you're saying, well, that's all well and good, but we still need to build our bookcase. So if you look at this very tiny little image right here, and we zoom in, you can see this are the dimensions of the kit they want to sell you. Well, this center section here is going to be helpful because you can see the total door depth is 8 1/4 inches. I am going to copy that because I'm going to trust they know what they're doing. If we take that and translate that into the real world, you can see that we're going to have a 3/4 inch face trim. So therefore, the rest of the bookcase is going to be 7 1/2 inches. So we have that dimension. Now, the door width we will get to in the next shot. But the height is going to be based on your door opening, and I'll go over that with you as well in a moment. So for our case, let's go over the hinge placements. Now, the first part of that is going to be installing this base piece. Now, in our case, we are going to be going into the concrete of our basement floor, and therefore I am using, as you see here, our little drill that I recently reviewed that has a hammer drill function. And this hinge here, from the very front of the threshold, you come in 1 15/16 and over 1/4 inch. So that is pretty easy to follow. Next, we want to go over where we place the hinge that attaches to the bookcase itself. So we go past this page and we go down to left hinge bookcase template. And you can see again they have outswing or inswing. Again, we're an inswing. So ours is going to look something like this, as you see. Now, to make this easy, I suggest that you write on all your pieces what they are. So in this case, this is going to be the bottom base, but it's the front plus the trim, right? So if we flip it over, now we're looking at this view. We want to come from the front down 4¼ inches, but let's leave 3/4 inches for the trim. So down 3½ inches. And then this side right here comes in 2 9/16. That's that measurement here. And you can see I have it sketched out for you. That is how the bottom of our bookcase is going to get its start. Next, let's head over and I'll show you how we're going to determine the width of our bookcase. Well, this wall was here when we bought the house, and it's sadly quite out of plumb. So I'm taking a laser and I'm shooting a crisscross right on that screw so that I can confirm up there where each of the dots are going to go. All right, let's determine the total width of our bookcase. So we've already installed the hinge over here. We've installed the hinge onto this board here that's going to be our bottom that we're going to build everything off of. So we need to determine this dimension right here. And the way to do that is with it on its pivot over here. You want not only the board that's going to be the base to clear, but we also have to account for 3/4 of an inch for our face frame. So I would install your hinge on your board and then start cutting down this side, back, until with a piece of trim, you can open it completely and have, say, 1/4 inch or slightly more of clearance. That will give you your final dimension. So the final measurement we need is how tall is our bookcase going to be? So that's going to be based off how high your opening is. Now, if you look right over here, you can see that is the actual piece of masking tape I used to make my calculations. So first get your opening, the height of your opening. Then you need to account for 5/8 of an inch for the upper hinge, then 3/4 of an inch for the lower hinge. Once you have that measurement, in my case, old Justin came a-calling. Just in case makes me do a lot of things that I wish I didn't have to do, but he's a big guy on safety, so I follow him. I gave Justin 1/4 inch. That gave me 80 inches as the actual finished height of my cabinet. Now from there, it just came down to my personal preferences. I used a hinge pin kit so that I could make floating adjustable shelves. I took the 3/4 inch plywood that I used to make the back so it wouldn't rack, and I ran it through my table saw to make these faux shiplap marks, and I love that. Also, I made the archway to mimic the one in the opening. I had a permanent shelf right here at 35 inches, which is the same height as all of our other countertop space. So if I put doors down here later on, it will look like just a standard height of all the rest of the kitchen cabinetry, kitchenette cabinetry, all that sort of stuff. And that's how I determined what I wanted it to look like. At that point, I did just standard bookcase cabinetry sort of building process. So I used a dado down here for this piece here. And then I used a lot of pocket hole joinery that I'll show you in a minute. When I installed, or excuse me, when I assembled everything, I did it for ease on its side. And here's what that finished process looked like. All right, well, we have the whole frame glued up. And I really like to use these homemade 90-degree corners to keep everything square. So this is just 3/4 inch plywood that I've cut into a triangle. And then I cut these little sections out for the clamps. So as you can see here, this section has been cut out parallel to the surface that I want to clamp. There you go, and then the plywood doesn't mar the paint or the finished surface. Now, for instance, the clamps by themselves, you can see here, I have to put paint on the little rubber pads because they'll discolor the paint sometimes. So just a little trick there, homemade 90-degree blocks. Now, down here is the bottom of the bookcase, and you can see I've made this void here. And the reason for that is I want to finish the bottom with standard 4-inch baseboard that's been used in the rest of the basement. So I didn't want to just attach it down on this side here and have it just floating. So I made this void, and as you can see right here, we are over the actual area I made. Well, that's because the bracket down here and the bracket that's on the floor, they equal 3/4 inch standoff from the ground. And this is actually a 5/8 of an inch standoff. So it should be 1/8 inch from the actual floor. And if it ever has an issue and it's starting to rub, I can just shave off a bit of the faux baseboard. Now coming around to the back, you can see, man, that just looks so nice. That's going to be a pretty decent match for her barn doors. A little darker, but I really like this color. So along the area where we're going to have the Z trim, the same kind of trim as on the barn doors there, I have actually used screws all the way along here and countersunk them in with a countersinking bit. And that way we're going to get really good strength on this 3/4 inch back. The rest of the field is all glue and nails. So before we put the trim on the front or on the back here, I think it's time, and Maverick agrees, to do a dry fit. All right, once you set the bottom hinge into its pivot point, then you come up here, and with this pin, you press this button to release the little ball on top, slide it through both holes like that. Then these little balls come out so that it can't slip down. And at that moment, this one is engaged as well. And you get nice, smooth tracking. Now on the opposite side of the door, this is the bookcase side, of course, we can now start laying out how we want the trim to be. Now we have about a 7/8 inch gap right here, about 1.25 inches over here, but remember, we don't want to be cheating over this trim because we run the risk of it rubbing. And we definitely don't want that. So to be safe again, I'm just going to have the trim come just like this, right on the edge of our box. That'll give us a nice, 3/4 inch or so overhang here. And then we can take our 4-inch casing, and when we set that up, going halfway across this piece of trim, just like that, we'll be able to cover up the drywall screws right there, nail into the 2x4 stud, and also a nail into this solid wood bit of trim here. If we come over to this side and we set up for that exact same reveal on the inside, the exact same overhang of halfway across, once again we'll be able to cover up the drywall screws and get adequate amounts of nails in. So that will work out perfect. So the next thing I'm going to do is just confirm all the measurements of the actual box and start building that face frame. So the best thing is to put the 2 vertical pieces in, and lastly measure for the top 40 7/16. And just like that, the face frame is done. On this top piece, I made it a little thicker than the sides, and I put this nice little decorative arch in there. It gives it a nice little extra touch of detail. Then I went around with this just 4-inch kind of casing material, and I framed out the doorway to make it look quite finished. I went around, filled in all the nail holes you see here with filler. So both of these faces here are filled. That filler is dry so we can sand and paint. Now, right before we do that though, I have been working today on these shelves. So you can see here, I have cut back the face of the shelf a little bit to make up for the face frame. So that is going to come right in here. We'll put the little pegs in to hold on our adjustable shelving. And I made 3 of those, so I think that'll look really nice to be a convincing bookcase. So I think the next thing to do would be remove this, sand everything down, paint all this face frame. Then once that dries, we can flip over our bookcase and start working on the back kind of Z barn door pattern. Now I'm just marking out for our little Z crossbars here. Looks like in our case, we are 41 degrees. Hi, what are you doing? That's a good boy. Here's the handle I got. Looks very similar to the barn doors in her room as well, and that's going to fit nice right there. All right, I love that look. I think it's time to break this all down, sand everything. We want to ease these edges because they're pretty sharp. Then stain in the same color and put a couple coats of polyurethane. Well, through the magic of YouTube editing, here we are with every single piece stained and 2 coats of polyurethane. It is a really nice match, and I can't wait to see that handle right over here. So I've got my favorite Works switch driver here. You easily switch from the bit to the drill, pre-drill, switch over. In this case, we are using some really nice black screws that are going to go well with these cuts that we have in it that are nice and dark, and that black handle. So this is the Venon Pro replacement battery that I'm so excited about, because for the first time my work switch driver has a battery life indicator. It's also 3 times the battery density of the little battery that comes with it. If you're interested in that video, it's right up here where I reviewed these replacement batteries. So first thing I want to do, I have these all lined up. Let's start by gluing this one, clamping it in place, and we'll just go right on through. Enjoy this nice montage. Nice. Now a couple last little bits. First, if you can see right up here is the magnet that I installed. I used a kit that I'll leave a link to. I found it at Home Depot, but it has a hole through the magnet so you can screw right into the magnet and hold it in place. I also took a Forstner bit and I drilled into the wood so that I could set it flush with the bookcase. And as you can see here, listen, it holds it really nice and tight. Also, you may notice, I'm not sure if the camera picks up, but I still need to paint and caulk all this trim around it, but I wanted to give you an idea of the kind of detail that I used to make it look like just a built-in bookcase and add to that kind of secret entrance feel. So, do you have any questions for me? Anything I didn't go into? I edited a lot out of this video to make it very digestible, but I'm very approachable. You can leave me a comment. There's also my email in the description below. Also in the description below is going to be a link to the Bookcase Hinge Kit, also links to all the tools and things that I use that I think would be relevant. Now, full disclosure, those will all be Amazon affiliate links. So if you click on them and end up making any purchase whatsoever, it doesn't cost you anything, but I do get an extra reward for driving you to Amazon's website. That's super helpful to the channel to help pay for all the costs and things that are associated with making a video like this. If you found it helpful, also, will you please give me a thumbs up, and also please consider subscribing. Both those things are super helpful to the channel. This is one of the last sorts of things I'm going to be doing for our basement build, but I will have a couple other little cabinetry things for storage and organization going on down here. One of them is going to be kind of a fold down tabletop area enclosed in a cabinet so that I can fix guitars and guns and do overhead camera shots and things like that. I think that build would be pretty interesting for you, and that'll be at a later date. I also do lots of tool reviews that I think you'll find very helpful. So until next time, thank you for watching.